You're watching Caribbean Today on YouTube. President Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali recently reaffirmed his country's unwavering commitment to making Latin America and the Caribbean a zone of peace. He also made it unmistakably clear that Guyana will also stand firm against the forces of transnational crime, illicit trafficking, and any destabilization that threatens regional stability. Speaking at the commission parade for new officers of the Guyana Defense Force, President Ali reminded the young cadets that defending peace and sovereignty requires both strength and principle. Guyana supports the aspiration of keeping Latin America and the Caribbean as a zone of peace, he declared, but equally also, we support every action and embrace every partnership to cripple transnational crime, the illicit drug trade, and any form of destabilization that threatens the security of Guyana and this region. He underlined that Guyana's increased defense spending is not a preparation for war, but an investment in protection to ensure the country's prosperity, democracy, and territorial integrity remain secure. He reiterated Guyana's adhesion to international law and its faith in peaceful settlement of disputes, notably in the case before the International Court of Justice. At the same time, he acknowledged that the region faces both traditional and newer threats from cybercrime to trafficking to terrorism. The government's response, he explained, is to equip the Guyana Defense Force with its most advanced tools, technology, and training in its history. We will protect every inch of Guyana's territory with vigilance and resolve. We will deploy technology to make our country more secure. We will be adaptable, smart, and ready to respond on land, at sea, in the air, and in cyberspace, he affirmed. He also emphasized the importance of regional and international collaboration, noting that security is built not in isolation, but through trust and partnership. The Caribbean looks to Guyana as a partner in stability, in security, and in service. When one nation in the Caribbean stands strong, the entire region is fortified, he said. Guyana's own territorial dispute with Venezuela is a backdrop that looms large. In March, a Venezuelan Coast Guard vessel entered waters claimed by Guyana, an incursion President Ali called a matter of grave concern. The United States and the Organization of American States backed Guyana's position, condemning the act as a violation of maritime law. In turn, the U.S. Secretary of State declared that any attack on Guyana or U.S. energy interests in its territory would be a very bad day for Venezuela, a statement illustrating the rising strategic weight Guyana now carries. Just last month, Guyana responded to U.S. military buildup in the southern Caribbean, ostensibly aimed at countering drug trafficking near Venezuelan waters, by cautioning that any such activity must not threaten regional security nor be done without consultation. Ministerial sources say Guyana reviewed letters sent by several Caribbean foreign ministers to the U.S., calling for assurances that the region would not be drawn into unilateral military action. This dual role of guardian of national sovereignty and partner in regional stability places Guyana at the center of a complex and high-stakes balancing act. On one hand, President Ali signaling that Guyana rejects all forms of aggression and coercion. We will defend every inch of Guyana's territory, he said. On the other, he's saying that cooperation with regional and global partners is essential to defeating non-state threats like drug networks that prey on Caribbean nations. That's a message with two faces and two audiences. Externally, to Venezuela, to regional neighbors, to Washington, and the international legal community, Guyana is reliable, law-abiding, peaceful. Internally, to Guyanese citizens, the message is one of strength, modernization, vigilance, that their country will not be passive in the face of threats. Yet the challenges remain daunting. Venezuelan Defense Minister Vladimir Pedrino Lopez publicly warned that if any offensive were launched from Guyana or Trinidad and Tobago, Caracas would respond. His remarks underscored how the region's long-running border dispute now intersects with U.S. military strategy and trafficking operations. Meanwhile, the U.S. naval deployment in the Caribbean has expanded rapidly. Submarines, reconnaissance aircraft, destroyers, all part of a broader strategy to project power in a region that many believed had been a zone of peace. For Guyana, these developments present both opportunity and risk. First, transparency and clarity. Guyana's insistence on making the Caribbean a zone of peace can only mean something if its actions match its words. Visible defense spending that strengthens rule of law, not shadow partnerships with foreign militaries whose presence might spark local fears. Second, regional diplomacy. Guyana's external position is strengthened when it works closely with CARICOM, the UN Charter, the ICJ, and its neighbors, not simply as a satellite of one great power. Its statement at the UN last week reaffirmed this approach. Lastly, domestic legitimacy. Offering advanced defense tools and being ready for anything is a message of power, but one that must be tied to civil purpose, social protection, and accountable leadership if it is to preserve the unity. Regional powers have hedged their bets if the U.S. is allowed to continue airstrikes unchecked and without due process. The Caribbean risks becoming entangled in the same kind of devastation seen in other conflict zones. At CaribbeanToday.com, we cover your world.